we have to figure out as the gaming community. Let's figure it out together. Titanfall, Hyperscape, Battleborn, Lawbreakers. Y'all let me know what you think also should be added to that list. Because ladies and gentlemen, it's a sad day in history for another so-called Call of Duty killer. Now, of course, I love competition in the gaming space because I think it brings out the innovative features as far as to get the consumers on your side to showcase you provide the better game loop, which is why I believe we received one of the best Call of Duties in the past 5 to 6 years. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is one of the greatest Call of Duties of all time as far as a total package, right? So when we're getting into Xdefiant, ultimately being one of the more popular downfalls as far as a Call of Duty killer, because initially it did reach 1 million players within 2.5 hours of launch. It did have 300,000 concurrent players within the first 48 hours. What happened? Literally featured characters from all the popular Ubisoft titles such as Splinter Cell, The Division, Watch Dogs. I've been asking for a Splinter Cell since the inception of this podcast. I love stealth games, and I say it all the time on my Analytic Dreams video gameplay walkthrough on Spotify to see the video along with the audio. Shameless plug. But when I'm playing video games, stealth aspects were always intriguing to me simply because of me growing up, especially with my cousin, playing Splinter Cell to the point where you realize, hey, I think this type of style of gaming is one of my favorites as far as an actual gamer. So whenever I see stealth aspects in other video games, I always compare it to Splinter Cell, which brings me back to the point, why haven't we received the new Splinter Cell game? But that's okay, because that's for a whole nother segment. For today, we're talking about the downfall of Xdefiant, unfortunately, as it was officially announced that all Xdefiant servers will go offline June 2nd, 2025. Registration and downloads are no longer available. Purchases have been disabled. If you wanted to play the game, which we know you didn't, but if you wanted to play it, you still can't. Sad day in history. Now, this does not bring me joy because, like I said at the beginning of the segment, I enjoy competition, but these jokes have to fly because guess what? If you're going to call yourself a Call of Duty killer with supposedly ex Call of Duty developers working on this game, basically bragging about how they was holding them back or something like that, and then you come out with this game, shows a lot of promise, and now, not only does it show a lot of promise, but you just come out with the most blasphemous statements like, oh, we don't need skill-based matchmaking, or it makes it too arcadey, or it was a lot of different takes on how. Actually, let's just get into the crust of it, right? The reason why Xdefiant failed is literally because after the launch, Xdefiant didn't know what his player base wanted, and the whole player base was out here flying around like they was Superman. And no, that's not an ability in the game. They was just straight up cheating. So not only is the community disrespecting the developers disrespecting the community, you have, as far as a free-to-play game, you have Xdefiant's whole financial model based on in-game purchases. If you have a free-to-play model, you have to entice people to want to purchase things in your game to support the longevity of it. But of course, the trash skins, there were no alternative options as far as making something look better, which you may have had to pay for. But at the same time, if it's a free-to-play game, there's no reason to not pay for it if you get it for free initially. And it's a great game. That's a very important right? So, of course, Xdefiant did not generate enough revenue from microtransactions to be considered profitable. And of course, you have the intense competition in the FPS market as far as it being highly saturated when Black Ops first was revealed as far as Black Ops 6, because now you're dealing with one of the, well, they didn't know it at the time, but now they're dealing with one of the greatest Call of Duties of all time, and in the form of what they said they was about to kill, right? Obviously, I don't think they ever said that verbatim, but it was implied, always talking about how it was ex Call of Duty developers working on this game and how, oh, this is like creativity just let loose and they wasn't restricted by the Call of Duty rules or whatever. Also, the decision to shut down Xdefiant was more of Ubisoft's broader strategy, because I don't know if y'all been paying attention. Ubisoft is on the ropes right now. As far as a boxer, they would be knocked out, and the judge, the referee, is basically counting to 10. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, that referee is at least at 7. It's getting spooky to the point where I had to cover Ubisoft again in December 11th, 2024. Shameless plug. Just type in Ubisoft Analytics in Ubisoft Analytic Dreams with a Z. People forget the Z, but I guess, that's not how you're supposed to spell dreams. But of course, you see the title, Analytic Dreams with a Z, Ubisoft. Anyways, on whatever podcast platform you listen on. And the segment of me talking about how Ubisoft shares fell 17% after it delayed one of its more premier Assassin's Creed games, which is Shadows. Because they finally, this is how you know they're on the ropes. People been asking for Assassin's Creed Japan game forever, right? Tell me why it took until this year for them to announce it, showcase some gameplay, and guess what? They still delayed it because they are so scared that if this flops, that it will be inevitably over for Ubisoft. As Tencent, a significant shareholder, is literally contemplating taking Ubisoft private because of the financial downturns and unsuccessful game releases. I mean, you had Star Wars, for crying out loud. The only open world Star Wars game ever of all time. The only open world Star Wars game of all time. If somebody wants to play an open world Star Wars game, guess who owns it? Ubisoft. Guess what happened when Star Wars Outlaws came out? Nobody played it. How in the world does those two things correlate? So honestly, Ubisoft just fumbled the ball. If you can't make the first open world Star Wars game popular, if you can't do that, and then your first ever Assassin's Creed game in Japan, which fans been clamoring for, you just been ignoring them like, hey, we'll do that at some point. But now, that some point is now, and you still can't get it right. Everybody is upset over the Shadows game, which, that's a whole nother discussion, but they are upset. So as far as facing financial setbacks, it only makes sense that they basically end Xdefiant because of the pressure to cut financial liabilities. And at this point in time, being a free-to-play model with literally not enough revenue to even break even, it makes sense that you would have to pivot resources away from underperforming projects. And it's already not performing well. So now if you remove more resources to save money, it's going to be less that gets fixed in the game. And it's already broken. So at this point, Ubisoft is really in a whole world of trouble, which is bringing me back to my beginner point. But before that, let's just talk about how Ubisoft, at first they didn't want to just cut the game entirely, right? Back in August 2024, they started to cut off some developers of Xdefiant after they finished the game because, this gaming industry is very high turnover rate, which is why I've never wanted to be a game developer, but I super respect everybody who's in that field because I ain't gonna lie, it has to be a grind. Never know when your next paycheck or your next game or your next opportunity is going to come, right? So I really respect them as far as what they do. But let me tell you something. The gaming industry as a whole has laid off a total of 13,000 people. So as far as Xdefiant laying off 10 developers, we didn't really think too much of it. But then Ubisoft's San Francisco, Ubisoft's Osaka, and Ubisoft's Sydney teams all were closed. All of them no longer here. They are finished. They were laid off. They are okay, y'all get the point, right? So basically, that resulted in 277 job cuts. So now you're looking at it from a perspective hold up, is Ubisoft in trouble? Which brings me into the fruition of the whole Tencent threatening to take over because y'all are blowing too much bread out here. Y'all are basically losing every single turn. Well, every single time we turn around, you lost money. You ever know that person that got paid and then the next week he talk about, man, I can't wait till my next paycheck. I'm down to my last 100. My brother, what'd you do with the other 2,500? Which you just blowing money? All right, let me hold on to that. And now I'm your financial advisor. How about that? I'm going to manage your wealth because obviously you can't. That's basically what Tencent is telling Ubisoft essentially, because if you go private, basically that helps because with you going private, Bloomberg reported that your stock would rise, however you say it, by 31%. This is literally Bloomberg's report of Ubisoft. They said if Ubisoft went private. Their stock was soar by over 31%. So yeah, I don't know why it's at its lowest point since 2013 as far as Ubisoft's current stock. All I gotta say is you had all the resources and IP in the world to have hits, and you ultimately fumbled. So with that, one could say that you had all the positive reception leading up to Star Wars Outlaws and to Assassin's Creed Shadows, and now both of those games unequivocally have let down gamers, specifically in the year of 2024, because Shadows don't come out to like 2025. Y'all get the point. All right, so with that being said, it brings me back to my first point, and to round this off, I will say once again, Titanfall, Hyperscape, Battleborn, and Lawbreaker. I wonder what game is now added to that list. Sad day in history, man. So with that being said, click my link tree in my bio. Let me know on one of my social medias. What do you think about Xdefiant being shut down and being completely taken offline June 2nd, 2025? And what is your overall takeaway from this unfortunate debacle of not only Xdefiant, but Ubisoft as a whole?